Epcot didn't fail because it was unrealistic. It failed because it was too real. Walt Disney wasn't designing a theme park. He was planning a fully controlled city for 20,000 people, with no elections, no homeowners, and no retirees. In this video, you'll see exactly how Epcot was supposed to work, why it collapsed after Walt's death, and why Disney quietly walked away from the most ambitious city ever proposed. Before the gates open on Epcot's original plan, you're watching Design Zip, a channel about architecture, design, and construction, and subscribing helps you catch future videos like this. Walt had spent years walking through messy, loud, and polluted cities. In his words, these cities were unplanned. He watched his grandkids grow up and started worrying about what kind of a world they were inheriting. Disneyland showed him that people love places that feel safe, clean, and organized. So he wondered, what if a city could run like that? What if design, technology, and strict control could solve every flaw of modern life? That question turned into EPCOT, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. This was the actual blueprint for a 20,000 resident city built on 27,400 acres of Florida land, which Walt quietly purchased through dummy companies. That's 43 square miles, by the way, bigger than San Francisco, twice the size of Manhattan. That alone tells you he wasn't thinking small. The layout was incredible. Walt wanted a perfect circle city with layers that stretched outward like ripples in water. At the center would have stood a 30-story hotel and convention tower, acting like a glowing landmark you could see for miles across the flat Florida landscape. Around that tower, under a weather-controlled dome, you would walk through an indoor downtown full of shops and restaurants, designed to look like cities around the world. Think of it as the earlier sketch of today's World Showcase, except this version was actually part of a real city where people lived. Walt also decided that there would be no cars on the surface. Walt hated how cars shaped cities, so he pushed them underground. Trucks, deliveries, parking, all of it. Residents would move through the city using two systems Disney engineers were already testing: the monorail for longer distances and the people mover for local trips. These two systems were supposed to stretch over 12 miles of track across the entire property, connecting the neighborhoods, the industrial park, the airport, the hotels, and eventually the Magic Kingdom. Yes, his city would have its own airport too. Once you had passed the central downtown, you would reach a ring of high-rise apartments for most workers. These buildings surrounded the commercial hub and created walkable neighborhoods. Just outside that would be the Greenbelt. This would have been a massive park containing schools, churches, playgrounds, and community centers. And beyond the Greenbelt would have been the cul-de-sac suburbs, or low-density homes arranged like petals of a giant flower. Each petal would have its own open green space and a people mover station, so residents could zip to work without ever touching a car or crossing a road. But Epcot would have been very different from a normal city. You couldn't buy a home, you couldn't own your land, you couldn't retire there. Walt wanted the freedom to upgrade every building whenever new technology arrived. If a corporation created a better refrigerator, Epcot Homes would get it first. If a new heating system came out, the whole block might get ripped open and replaced. That only works if nobody can complain about property rights. Residents would not vote for anything either. There would have been no city council, no mayor, no public elections. Disney's company would run the government, maintain the streets, manage the utilities, and even decide which technologies were installed in your home. Walt framed this as efficiency. After all, real cities get stuck in political gridlock. Epcot would move faster because democracy was not part of the plan. And then there was the industrial park. It would have been a massive zone where America's biggest companies would lease space to develop new inventions. Walt wanted Epcot to be a national showroom for innovation. Guests visiting Disney World could tour these labs, watch engineers build future tech, and then see those same inventions installed inside Epcot Homes. When Walt filmed his famous presentation in October 1966, he described the entire project as a living blueprint of the future. Epcot was supposed to change constantly. Buildings would be redesigned, streets would evolve, technology would rotate, the city would never be finished. And in Walt's mind, that was the point. He believed this could fix urban America. Walt wanted to prove that creativity and engineering could create the perfect city, and for a moment it almost seemed possible, until everything collapsed. The turning point came 2 months after filming his EPCOT presentation. Walt Disney died in December 1966. And the uncomfortable truth is that the entire EPCOT project depended on him alone. He was the engine, the salesman, the negotiator, the dreamer, and the only person who understood how the pieces fit together. The passion died with his death. The board wanted stability, not experimentation. Investors wanted profits, not risk. And Walt's brother, Roy Disney, made the company's position clear when Imagineers begged him to continue EPCOT as a real city. He said that Walt is dead, so they shouldn't bring that up. EPCOT's collapse came from multiple directions at once. The most obvious problem was cost. Building a theme park is expensive, but building a functioning city complete with housing, utilities, transit lines and everything else was a different level. EPCOT required constant upgrades, rotating technology, and a maintenance budget no one could safely predict. Then came the legal side. EPCOT would have operated without elections and without private property owners. That meant no local democracy, no public accountability, and no traditional municipal government. Disney needed special political powers to make this legal. So the company worked with Florida to create the Reedy Creek Improvement District in 1967. This district gave Disney near government authority over the land. But even with that structure in place, running an entire city raised questions no corporate board wanted to answer. Who handles emergencies? Who regulates safety? Who gets blamed if an experimental home system fails? And let's not ignore the biggest unknown of all. Would people actually agree to live in this place? EPCOT asked residents to accept surveillance-level management, frequent home modifications, corporate-controlled rules, and no retirement. It was a community built on innovation, but also on obedience. The average American family might not be ready to sign up for that. Considering all these issues, the executives focused on one thing they knew would work: a new theme park. It was something reliable, something profitable, something Walt could have approved as a first step. So EPCOT, the city, faded into the background. Piece by piece, the urban plan was replaced by the EPCOT theme park we know today. By 1975, the original EPCOT city was effectively gone. The land was still there, the legal framework still existed, the monorail still ran, but the dream was missing its architect. When EPCOT finally opened its gates in 1982, it wasn't the city Walt planned. Not even close. Instead of a living community with workers heading to futuristic offices and families testing next-generation appliances, guests walked into a massive theme park. And even though the name stayed the same, nothing was the same. The park was called EPCOT Center, and it instantly became one of the most ambitious attractions Disney had ever attempted. It stretched across 305 acres, twice the size of Magic Kingdom, and cost close to $1 billion by the time it opened. The signature icon, which is Spaceship Earth, reached 180 feet tall and looked like a monument to the future Walt always cared about, except now the future was framed as entertainment, not everyday life. EPCOT Center was split into two lands, Future World in the front and World Showcase in the back. Future World focused on technology, energy, motion, space, communication, food production, and the environment. Pavilions were backed by major corporations like Exxon, General Motors, and AT&T. They created a type of permanent world expo. It wasn't a functioning city, but it did show off ideas that felt futuristic at the time. Guests could ride through massive greenhouses, dive into ocean research, sit inside simulated communication centers, and explore experimental vehicles. World Showcase, meanwhile, carried a small piece of Walt's original city vision. He once imagined an international shopping district inside EPCOT's downtown, an area where workers lived above themed storefronts from around the world. That idea resurfaced here, but now as a collection of 11 country pavilions arranged around a lagoon. Instead of residents, there were performers and cast members. Instead of daily life, there were restaurants, festivals, and curated culture. It was beautiful and impressive, but it was not the community Walt hoped to build. Over time, EPCOT changed again. Future World started losing its educational pavilions. Horizons closed, Universe of Energy shut down. Communicore turned into Innoventions and then faded entirely. Today, the park blends futurism with blockbuster movies, like Guardians of the Galaxy, Frozen, and Moana. It still feels optimistic, but it also feels like a theme park trying to hold on to a dream that slipped away decades earlier. We started with the question of why Walt Disney's EPCOT city failed, and discovered it was a high-tech utopian dream, a massive, autocratic experiment that promised flawlessness at the cost of every basic right. Looking back, the sheer ambition and ingenuity of the plan are undeniable, but it's hard not to feel that we narrowly avoided a corporate dictatorship disguised as a perfect city. This raises the essential question: did we miss out on a genuine architectural solution to urban decay, or did we avoid something genuinely dangerous and totalitarian? The failed EPCOT city reminds me of Toyota's Woven City in Japan, another vision for a perpetually evolving, future-proof community. We made a video breaking down Toyota's Woven City, so be sure to check that out right after this one. And if you enjoy stories like this, Design Zip explores the architecture, design, and construction behind ambitious projects around the world. Subscribe if you'd like to see more.